Oh no, it's Mark. Hey, what is up, Elite Warriors? It is Mark Yoon, and today I am bringing you another video. So, this is going to be a little bit different of a video. I was kind of irked, I guess you would say. I don't use the word trigger because it sounds stupid. So, I was kind of, like, peeved, I guess, reading this month's Gameinformer, this one, the November issue, with, okay, most of it was fine. The biggest problem that I had is there's a section in the article. I don't know who the writer was of that part of the article. Let me check real quick. Written by Kyle Hilliard. And I guess his research powers or his research button was broken, because in one major section of the article, I'll actually have it posted right here, he goes on to say, well, he's talking to one of the developers from the Budokai series, and if you could see this right over here, you guys know what I'm going to complain about already. So he was interviewing them and talking about why he, that particular producer never wanted to make a fourth Budokai. And so we're going to get into a few things right here. There is a fourth Budokai. It's not Burst Limit like a lot of people say. Burst Limit was supposed to be a revamping of the series for a new generation. This was Dragon Ball Z Infinite World. As you can see right here, the PlayStation 2. Now, it totes itself, I'll have pictures on the screen. It totes itself, on the back it literally says it's the best of the Budokai series. It has the same exact engine, it has the same exact, it actually has like a different, not fighting mechanic, but like it uses Burst Limit's fighting mechanics and streamlines them, and it gets rid of that god-awful Dragon Rush from Budokai 3. But it wasn't mentioned at all in the article, and in the article they specifically said Budokai and its future iterations, Budokai 2 and 3. Again, I'll have the article here, you can read it for yourself. Nowhere does it mention Infinite World. So here's a couple of the reasons why I think that is, and my biggest problem with it. Dragon Ball Z Infinite World came out on November 4th, 2008. And for those of you that that's hitting a chord with, or that sounds familiar, Burst Limit actually was just coming out 7 months later. That came out on June 10th, 2008. Now the PlayStation 3 itself actually released on November 11th, 2006. So we're talking about 2 years into the life cycle of PlayStation 3, which was that gen's current gen console. PlayStation 2 games were dwindling off, and stuff like, well, in America anyway, and stuff like that. People were preparing to move over to the new console. And Burst Limit was actually really hyped. It was an unfinished game. They were supposed to go past the Boo Saga. They didn't have enough time, so they released it at the end of the Cell Saga, which a lot of you already know that story. So 7 months before Burst Limit comes out, Dragon Ball Infinite World actually released on November 4th. Something to note, by the way, when it released in Japan, Infinite World itself, which had no... I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, okay? I've been watching Dragon Ball since 1988. I've played every single Dragon Ball Z game. Most of the time, I pre-order them from when I was old enough, pre-ordered them day one, got them day one. I have like a little ritual where if it's like a Dragon Ball game or like a Naruto game, I never miss day one. Like I always pre-order them every single time. I heard nothing about Infinite World. I mean, this also was 2008, so the usage of the internet, well, at least my usage of the internet wasn't as streamlined as it is today, so I didn't like go on to different forums, and I didn't like look for news. I usually just relied on marketing. And Infinite World was not marketed at all. Like, it wasn't marketed. Like, I didn't even know the game was coming out. I literally was in GameStop, and I was buying Burst Limit, and I saw Infinite World on the shelf, and I was like, there was one copy in the new section, no pre-owned. And for those of you anime fans, you know, if you go into GameStop, if you don't pre-order an anime game, they usually only carry like 2 or 3 actual copies of that game. So I was like talking to the store manager at the time, and I was like, what the heck is this? And she was like, oh, this is like, she said, this is Dragon Ball's newest title or whatever. And I said, well, what is this? Because Burst Limit just came out, and I didn't hear anything about this from the release of Budokai 3. Not including, I mean, I played the handhelds and all those, Legacy Goku, GT Transformation, all that stuff. But she was like, yeah, this is supposedly it's Budokai 4. And I was like, Budokai 4, like, Budokai's one of my favorite engines and favorite series of all time. There's no way I would have missed that. So I picked it up the same day that I got Burst Limit, and I took it home, and I actually played Burst Limit for like half an hour. I was like, man, it was like, yeah, it like pretty much was like playing HD Budokai 1 to me, personally, except without the awesome music. And I mean, there were some good cutscenes, especially when Goku transforms to a Super Saiyan for the first time. That was amazing. But so I put on my PlayStation 2 and I started to play Infinite World with my brother. I'm like, yeah, this totally is Budokai 4. And in the back of the box, like, well, I will show it, it says the best of the Budokai series. And it even talks about, like, the reformations to the engine that they used from Budokai 3. Like, it talks about they got rid of Dragon Rush, thank goodness, because Dragon Rush was terrible. Dragon Rush was fun if you're playing against an opponent, an actual opponent, but like couch. But if you're playing against the computer, Dragon Rush was super annoying. It was like a coin toss thing, and pretty much like used as a last-ditch effort to like not get KO'd by a player. And they would do it consistently and constantly, over and over and over again. It was just really annoying. And unlocking all the characters, and I'm playing the story, and the biggest thing for me was that like the story was insane. Like there was a first-person shooter elements to it. Like, I mean, there's one mini game where you're actually Tien Shin Han and you're going against Cell, and you're actually using the Kikoho on Cell, and you like have to blast them down there, and you have to get them to a certain point or something like that. It was insanely awesome. And there's exploration. There was like open world elements, so it's nowhere near as linear as like Budokai 3. This is not shitting on Budokai 3 either. I like Budokai 3, but there are definite advantages to this game. I mean, a lot of people call this game Budokai 3.5, whatever. That would still make it a next iteration in the game. The biggest improvement overall for me was the skill system. Like, I mean, in Budokai 3, I don't know if you remember, if you have the HD version, you played it recently. Say I wanted my Goku to transform into a Super Saiyan 4, which Super Saiyan 4 is my favorite transformation, so obviously I want all my characters to equip that. You would have to have Goku, and then you would have to have the skill for Super Saiyan, and then Super Saiyan 2, and then Super Saiyan 3, and then Super Saiyan 4. I'm sorry, Kaioken first. So you have to have all your slots pretty much just for transformations. So you have no extra capsules for skills, no extra capsules for improving your HP, your defense, or your super attacks. None of that. It was just transforming. And that kind of brought down Budokai 3 for me a lot, actually. Like, it was really annoying, and the skill system was not user-friendly. But then the capsule system, the skill system was so revamped in Budokai 3 that if you would just equip a skill capsule that was called Transformation. So you would put Transform as one skill set in one skill slot on your character. And if you unlocked Super Saiyan 4 or whatever else you were going for, it would go straight, it would do that. It would be like 1 key for Kaioken, 2 key for Super Saiyan, 3 key. So it's the same transformation system as Budokai 3, but it was actually revamped enough that like you can have all of your transformations on one capsule, so you can use the rest of your capsule slots for things like key +4, for instance, or defense up, you know, that stuff. Or the negating ones, which were the big things, like some villains would, like, some of the story missions would start out where you're hugely disadvantaged, and the only way you could pretty much win is if, like, you had that negating capsule on. Which gets me to another point of contention from the people that I've heard of that played Infinite World, is they thought the story mode was incredibly too hard. The story mode was challenging, it was tough, especially if you're used to playing Budokai 1, 2, and 3, because those games are insanely easy. But Infinite World, like, it pushed the limits of its metal. They didn't have that as much stupid super armor as they did in 3, but they implemented other ways of making it more difficult, and you had to know combos, and you had to get in there, and you had to get your hands dirty. It was an actual good fighter. I know a lot of my friends who are just regular fighter games like Mortal Kombat, stuff like that, they'll play, like Street Fighter players, they'll play with me in that game, and their go-to Dragon Ball game before was Super Dragon Ball, which is made by some of the people behind, in Capcom behind Street Fighter. And I didn't like Super Dragon Ball because I thought it was extremely limited in its capacity for characters, story, all that stuff, so I wasn't a fan of it. But that would be my go-to game to play with them, because they'd be like, oh, Dragon Ball's interesting, but I'd rather play Street Fighter, so we would play that. When we played Budokai Infinite World, like, those same people got into it, because, like, it was more streamlined of a fighting engine system. But anyway, that's besides the point. So why didn't people hear about it? Well, I think the marketing was terrible. Like, I didn't hear anything about the game, and people were focused on the PlayStation 3. So Burst Limit's coming out 7 months after that game comes out. So what are you going to do? You're going to buy Burst Limit? Or are you going to buy, which is like the new hyped up Dragon Ball game, which was super overhyped? Or do you want to play Infinite World, which you don't even know about, which you don't even hear about for your old console, which you probably most likely traded in for PlayStation 4, especially at that, PlayStation 3, especially at that time. I know back in the day, I used to, whenever I would upgrade a console, I would trade in the old ones. It wasn't a problem back then because most of the consoles had backwards compatibility. Same with the PlayStation 3 when it first released. Now I have all three systems because I don't want to go back to wanting to play a certain game, so I have a PS2, a PS3, and a PS4. By the way, this is the Japanese cover art on this game. This is the Japanese version because I actually imported it from Japan as well because I have a modded PlayStation 2. And I wanted to play both versions just to see if there's any differentials. Because sometimes like there'll be added stuff in one version and then when it goes to another area it doesn't. So anyway, this game has the same team. It was produced by Dimps. It was made by Dimps. It was produced by or released by Atari in the United States. I think it was just Bandai in Japan. But okay, the reception for it here wasn't that great because we had no marketing, but they did market it, however, in Japan. And when it released in Japan, it actually moved 76,452 units of the first week that it was out. It was actually the second top-selling game of that week in Japan. I think the only one to beat it was like the current Professor Layton game. So there's obviously like a desire for it, and people wanted it. People didn't think it was just a throwaway 3.5 game. People actually in Japan enjoyed the game. And just to let you know, before we go any further, Infinite World is my favorite Dragon Ball game of all time. It is my top Dragon Ball game. To me, it beats out Xenoverse 2, it beats out Xenoverse 1. Like, I freaking love Dragon Ball Infinite World. And it is a game that's always on my must-have when I have a PlayStation 2. I need to have that game. Hey, cat. Okay, I'm probably getting riled. My cat's, like, worried. Jen, don't go over there. No. Okay, so we talked about the skill system. We talked about the differences in the story, like the first-person shooter, the exploration, the gathering items. There's like cool missions where like you have to capture bubbles in a certain time limit. So you're like Goku running around King Kai's planet and you gotta like capture bubbles. It's really fun. The fighting system's been revamped. No Dragon Rush, thanks goodness. So let's also talk about a different thing. Now, there are downsides to this and there are good sides to this. So when Infinite World released, it released with 42 characters, and Budokai 3 had 38. So besides the linear aspect, we're talking about like an exuberant amount of more characters to add to the roster. So they did take away some characters, so I'm going to list them now. The characters that they removed, which in my opinion aren't anybody that I really cared about, except for one, which we'll get into. They took away Dodoria, Zarbon, and Android 19 from Budokai 1. Yay, who cares? I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care about them. From Budokai 3, they took away Kid Goku, Kid Oob, and Supreme Kai. The only one of those I cared about was Kid Oob, and he was kind of a crappy character anyway, because all he did was like a foot stomp and a scream. There was nothing really to that character. The only time I really care about Oob is when he's like Majub. When he's like, Super Oob, whatever you want to call him in Japanese. Like, that's what all I care about. So we got rid of like pretty much trash characters anyway. Kid Goku was decent, but anyway. They added GT Goku, Kid Goku. They added GT Vegeta, which is like my favorite thing for that, because it was always awkward for me to transform into a Super Saiyan 4 from Vegeta's Buu outfit. Or his Saiyan outfit for that matter. So we have GT Vegeta. They added Great Saiyaman 2, or Great Saiyawoman. They added PyCon, which is like a fan favorite. They added Pan from GT, which nobody cares about either. They added Super Freakin' Janemba. They added Janemba. So like if you missed Janemba in your Budokai 1 through 3 and you're wondering why they never put Janemba in the Budokai games, Janemba was in Budokai 4. It was in Infinite World. They also added another favorite, Baby Vegeta, which is my favorite villain in all of Dragon Ball. They added Super 17 and they added Sin Shenron. Budokai 3 only had a Mega Shenron, so this one you actually had Sin, so you can transform. Because I don't know if people know this, but Omega Shenron is technically not Sin Shenron. He's actually not. He's like a fusion character, pretty much. It's all of the Shadow Dragons combined into Sin Shenron, and he becomes Omega Shenron, which is actually a different character. His personality is different. He's just overall different. So we have this amazing Ross that just like went to the wayside because people were playing Budokai. I mean Burst Limit, and those same people playing Burst Limit, I was included in this, were just disappointed that the highest powered character in that game was Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Like you like literally go up to the Cell Saga, which wasn't super annoying, but here's the thing. If you grew up in the 90s and you grew up watching Dragon Ball on like not even before Toonami, if you're watching it on WB, if you're watching it on like Kids WB in the morning time, like when it came on after Sailor Moon, because of licensing and stuff like that, because Ocean's dub had the original dubbing, and then when it moved to Funimation, they literally showed up to the well, first of all, it was up to the Ginyu Saga for Ocean's dub, so consistently for, I don't know, like what, 2 years, you saw only up to the Ginyu Saga, and then would go back to the beginning of the Saiyan Saga. And then Funimation got it, and then they actually did up to the Cell Saga. So it's just like, it was pretty consistent after that, but we were getting repeated constantly, like hit it with the same episodes. We just wanted more and more and more. I was watching it in Japanese, and I think I was done watching GT or something. Yeah, I was already, whatever. I got my tapes from Japan. But, so, what are my thoughts on this? Dragon Ball Infinite World is a great game. It's not a sleeper. It is a great game. Anybody who enjoys the Budokai series will love this. I was actually kind of pissed when like they released the HD collection. I was working at GameStop at the time. When they released the HD collection, it had Budokai 1 and Budokai 3. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I can understand not having Budokai 2 because it didn't add much difference except for the Buu Saga, and it also added like a couple like special fusion characters and stuff. But overall, wasn't that much difference besides the storyboard gameplay, which a lot of people didn't like. I didn't personally mind it. I thought it was okay. I would have thought that they would have added the first game and then the latest game, so this would have been a great exposure for the game, and they would have finally got more copies moved in America if they had Budokai 1 and then they had Budokai Infinite World, or they had Budokai 3 and Budokai Infinite World. But they chose not to do that, so whatever, who cares? I'm still waiting for the Tenkaichi Ichi HD collection, but we don't know if we'll ever get that because Spike doesn't have the license anymore. The only license that they have is a limited license, only inside of Japan, for Zenkai Battle Royale, the arcade game. After Connect, they lost the US license, so whatever. So that's why it ticked me off. It's a great game, and they didn't even acknowledge it in the article, which if you did any modicum of research before you wrote this article, you would have realized that there was a game after Budokai 3. There was just too much cross between the new console generations coming in and then like the new Dragon Ball game coming in, both produced by Dimps, both touted as the next Budokai game, like both seen as like, well, the latter was seen as a reboot, but the further was seen as Budokai 3.5. I still consider it Budokai 4 because I think it has an exponential jump of what content they actually have. I mean, let's just go over that one more time, and then we'll cut the video after this. So let's make the video. Let's see what we add. So Infinite World has a non-linear story with mini games that include first-person shooters, exploration, gathering items, capturing stuff, running around, etc. It has 42 characters as opposed to 38 and gets rid of some of the fodder characters that people didn't care about. It has a super refined capsule skill system that makes it a lot easier and better and gives you more customization options for your characters. It has no Dragon Rush, which is a feature for me, and adds some of the sorely wanted characters that we actually wanted in the game. So, we're talking about a game that is leaps and bounds above Budokai 3. And people say that Budokai 3 was the best one. And everyone that I've said that to, I've asked have they played Infinite World, and 80% of them, like back when I used to be on GameFAQs, I would ask a lot of people, and I'd do polls, like, and I used to be on Dragon Ball Amino, and it's like, well, which game do you think is better? And people would say Budokai 3. And I'm like, why is Budokai 3 better? And most of the time, people didn't even play Infinite World. It was short release, there wasn't that many copies. I mean, if you try to find the game, like, it's still on Amazon, goes for like 20 bucks, I think, like that, like used. Like, I think it's like still $60 or something like that new. It's like, but it's not hard to find. You can find it for cheaper than that. You can, I don't know. I highly recommend the game. What are your thoughts on the comparisons between Budokai 3 and between Infinite World? What is your impression of the article that was written in the new Gameinformer magazine, if you read it? And give me some of your thoughts and opinions down below. Hit me up on any of my social media. Let me know what's going on. Sorry this video ran so long. I just had a lot to talk about with this. So I hope you share this video, spread it around, because Infinite World needs more notoriety. So that's going to be the video for today, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. If I was a little ornery or a little frustrated, I'm sorry. But that's going to be it for today. And as always, stay powered up. Peace out, guys.